Hi, my name is Christine List, and I am a yoga teacher based in Seattle, Washington. And I'm also a volunteer for Yoga Behind Bars, which is a Seattle-based nonprofit that has been offering yoga and meditation classes to youth and adults who are living behind bars since 2008. And we work in facilities all over Washington State. And our goals, like yours, are to bring healing and trauma recovery to incarcerated people in our communities who are often survivors of crime and trauma themselves. And we do this in the spirit of healing the whole community. And like you, we bring healing into action. So this practice is going to be a standing practice, a little more energized practice. We will come down onto our knees. So you might want to have a little bit of extra padding, like a towel that you can fold up and put under your knees. And if you don't have a yoga mat, that's okay. It might come in handy if you do, but you can just do it on your floor in your house or wherever you are right now. So I'm going to start in a standing position. And I'm going to come to the front of my mat. I'm just going to take a moment to ground myself, to spread my toes, to feel my feet against the floor. And I like to turn my hands open so that the front of my chest opens and I can feel my shoulder blades sliding down the back of my rib cage. This is standing mountain pose. I'm just feeling kind of a balanced sense of your body weight over the soles of your feet. So you might sway around a little bit until you feel kind of evenly balanced. Also noticing if your weight is forward into the balls of the feet or back into the heels, and you can kind of play with that. And then feeling for your neutral spine, so the curves of the spine, the lumbar curve, your lower back, your neck, they're staying kind of intact. And you might have a soft gaze in front of you and just feel this balanced, open standing pose that we call standing mountain pose in yoga. And then bring your attention to your breath. You might let your arms hang now and just begin to feel the breath coming in and out through your nose. Kind of an even balance of the breath between the inhale and exhale if possible. Noticing if you feel any resistance to your breath. And then let's let the arms swing. So just let your arms swing, let them be dead weight. Kind of like if you had a coat on and the sleeves were empty and you were turning from side to side. See if you can let your arms feel completely like they're hanging. You're bouncing off your body, bumping against the sides of your body. And you might turn your head to one side and the other. Looking back over your shoulder. The hips might move. And then just kind of slowly letting the arms swing back to center. And then here in your standing mountain pose, again, ground your feet and sweep the arms out like you're gathering up some air. You might even spread your palms, bringing the arms up, reaching up. And you might feel less like you're reaching from here and more like you're reaching kind of from your lats or from the sides of your body. So softening your shoulders away from your ears and grounding down through your tailbone and your sacrum and lifting up through the front of your body to stay in this neutral position. Maybe lifting the gaze. One more breath here and sweeping the arms down by your sides as you come forward, staying with this long neutral spine and hinging forward at the hip. So we're not rounding forward here, we're just keeping our head and shoulders lifted and our tails lifted. And take a couple breaths here. Again, feeling how the weight of your body is distributed over the soles of the feet. And your feet are about hip width apart. Noticing if you kind of roll to the outer edges of your feet or collapse inward and just kind of playing with that, feeling, noticing. And just another breath here in this forward bend. And then we'll step the left foot back and bring the knee down. And so bring your weight up and over the left knee. And if that's painful or if that feels like too much on the knee, you could put padding under your knee, or you could also bring your weight forward and bring fingertips to the floor or onto the knee. So coming into this low lunge in whichever way suits you best. And feeling a big stretch in the front of the left hip and kind of lifting up out of that. So keeping head and shoulders lifted, finding a steady gaze and finding your breath. And one more breath here. And then we are going to step back from here to downward facing dog or to prayer pose. So downward dog, spread the hands, wrap your elbows in, lift your tail. If this is part of your practice, downward facing dog, you can come right up into it, or you could bring your knees down and your forehead down and come into this prayer pose, or some people call it puppy pose. So it's like down dog, but the knees are down. So reaching, spreading your hands. You can also prop that folded up towel or a cushion under the head if you need to. Kind of wrapping the elbows in whichever pose you've chosen. If you're in downward facing dog, you could bend into one knee and the other. Lifting the tail. If you're in prayer, just take another breath there. And from your prayer or your down dog, let's come to hands and knees. And let's do a few cat-cow. So we'll round the spine, exhale. Inhale, tip the pelvis, maybe bend the elbows, arch the back, feel your belly stretching. Exhale, round. So start that movement with the pelvis, tip the pelvis, let it move up the spine. And one more time through, rounding and arching the back. And then from here, back to tabletop, and we'll come forward, come to the forearms, and bring the hips down. And you could come into Sphinx pose with your forearms on the floor. Another option could be to reach back and clasp hands at your lower back and roll up, lifting your head and shoulders. And you might start to roll from side to side, still breathing consciously. If you're in Sphinx pose, you could stay there, or you could bring your elbows forward and your fingertips together and palms apart. If you're in this locust pose, you could roll over onto your side, just kind of keeping your neck long and comfortable, pinning one shoulder underneath, and then back through center and roll to the other side. And back onto your belly. And whichever pose you're in, release it and just bring your hands underneath your head and rock your hips, let it go. And then we'll bring hands underneath the shoulders and we'll press back up, either to prayer with the knees down and the head on the floor, or back up to that downward facing dog pose, if that's part of your practice. Wrapping the elbows in, letting shoulders slide down the back of the rib cage, lifting belly, and then we'll step the left foot forward, and we'll bring weight up over the right knee, like we did on the other side, so we're in the low lunge again. And we'll sweep the arms up, lifting the gaze. If this feels like too much on the knee, again, you could come forward into the lunge, letting your hips drop a bit, but keeping head and shoulders lifted. So either of those options. And then we're going to step forward to downward dog. So doing your best, you could bring your hands down to the floor, bring some weight forward, tuck your back toes and step forward. So however you get there, do it consciously, bringing your attention to your breath. Forward bends are a little more calming to the nervous system, so feeling how your heart rate might drop a little bit, you can encourage that with a longer exhale. And then from here, bend your knees quite a bit and let your arms hang, let your head hang. And then with intentionality and drawing the belly in and rounding the spine, walk your hands up, keeping your chin towards your chest, and then roll the shoulders back and let your head be the last thing to come up, and you'll be back in your standing mountain pose. And let's have the arms hang again. So we'll do this little twist, this swinging of the arms, letting the arms be dead weight, side to side, and then back to center. From here, let's step the right leg back. So legs are straight, your hips are square, and find your breath here. You could take your hands to your hips. And once you feel like you have that, you could reach back. Maybe you can bring your hands back into your sacrum, into your low back, and kind of press down and lift the heart. So you're in a little bit of a back bend. If you want a little bit more, you could clasp your hands and lift your front foot. So you're lifting the heart, lifting your gaze. Find your breath here. It's harder to breathe in this pose. Steady gaze and steady breath. Bringing your foot back down if you had it lifted, releasing your arms, and step forward. And then we'll step the left foot back. And again, a couple of options. You could keep your feet on the floor, your hips are square, legs are straight. And you could bring hands back to the sacrum and lift the heart here. This is called stargazer pose. So you're looking up, the belly's stretching, the heart's lifting. Or you could also reach back, clasp the hands, and make it into more of a one-legged balance. So lifting the front foot, finding your breath, lifting your heart, and then the right foot comes back down, releasing the hands, step forward. And find your breath. Relax your arms. And from here, let's do a one-legged balance. So let's stand on, so you have a couple of options. You could stand on your, I'm going to do it sideways so that you can see that I'm keeping a fairly neutral spine. And all that's really changing is I'm lifting my foot. So I'm keeping my knees together and I'm going to lift my right foot. And so you could stay here, keeping the pelvis square, your hips are fairly level, staying in this neutral position. If you want, you could reach back for the ankle, for the right ankle with your right hand. And you could also try reaching back with the left hand for a little more challenge, lifting the heart. Maybe you can push your ankle into your hands. And so we could be here, and we also could be here. And we can also use something to steady us if we need to. So feeling your standing foot wherever you are, and then releasing that leg and circling your knees, ankles, toes, and hips in one direction and the other. Staying with your breathing, so feeling the breath coming in and out through your nose. And then we'll come back to stand, and we'll lift the left foot. This time I'm going to face forward. We'll lift the left foot, and we might stay right there. Knees stay pretty close together. And for another level of challenge, you could reach back for that ankle with your left hand. So gaze helps with balance. So find your gaze, steady gaze straight ahead, looking at something that's not moving. Perhaps the right hand comes back too, and then maybe pulling the ankle back into the hands and lifting the heart. So all of those options available. Just another breath or two wherever you are. You could also be steadying yourself with your hand on a wall. Release the foot and circle the hips and the knees and the ankles and the toes in one direction and the other. And coming back up, we're going to do one more one-legged balance. So we'll stand on the left foot to begin with, and keeping the same You might even bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your lower back and kind of tip and tuck the pelvis until you feel like you're in a fairly neutral position. So keeping that in that range. And we'll lift the right foot. So this is tree pose. So we're going to bring the foot, could come up into the thigh, could be down further in the calf, which isn't necessarily easier, but we're keeping the hips level. So if to get your foot up into your thigh, you're hiking your right hip up a lot, just keep it down a little lower. You could also touch your toes to the floor. That's a little more stabilizing. So taking one of those variations, finding your gaze, finding your breath. Maybe the arms grow up like the branches of a tree. And feeling that sense of being rooted down through your left foot and then lengthening up. And one more breath here. To come out, just gracefully step out and circle again. Circle your hips, your knees, your ankles, your toes in one direction and the other, just kind of resetting your joints. And then we'll stand on the right foot. And then we'll bring the left foot either up into the inner thigh or possibly down into the calf or to the floor. It's like your hips are opening like a book. You might have a little engagement in the glutes on the right side, feeling your standing foot rooting down like the trunk of a tree, reaching up, and find your breath and your gaze here. And of course the foot can be down lower, toes could be on the floor, tree pose. And just another breath or two. You can always keep hands at heart too. It's a little less destabilizing. And release. And then circle the hips and the knees and the ankles and the toes. Just letting it go. And coming back up. And finding your standing mountain pose again. And then let's let the arms hang and swing, going from side to side. And then just coming back to center, coming back to your standing mountain pose where we started. So feeling your feet planted on the floor, noticing once again how the weight of your body is distributed over the soles of your feet. And feeling some balance, feeling that your chest is open, that you're breathing, that your head is on top of your shoulders so there's not any strain in your neck or shoulders. And then you could bring your hands together at your heart to close this little standing practice, and possibly bowing your head to your own practice, to your own inner teacher, your higher self, or your higher power. And thank you